I'm Scott Yuknis for Climate Impact Company. The projected upper air pattern across Europe for this summer season features an upper-level trough, and that means a showery condition, suppressing heat, and also drought risk. So we're not expecting drought in Europe for the upcoming summer season. That's different from last summer. A cool pool of sea surface temperature anomalies to the south of Iceland and Greenland, persisting for much of 2015 and into this past winter, produced an upper-level trough, a storm-generating trough over the North Atlantic, and upstream from there, a ridge pattern over Europe, bringing heat and dryness last summer, and then a mild maritime flow bringing the mild conditions for this past winter. But all of that looks like it's going to change for summer 2016. It's already starting to. The upper-level trough across the North Atlantic is now starting to shift east with some persistence, and we expect it to shift east across Europe for much of the upcoming summer, delivering that showery regime, suppressing drought. Before we look at the summer forecast, let's take a look at May. While summertime looks cool and wet, May won't be like that, so expect volatility in the climate pattern as we approach summer. Central and Western Europe will be warmer and drier than normal for May. The wet pattern during May, late spring, will be across the Ukraine and into western Russia, where cool conditions will be present. Once we get into the summer season, though, that will all change. The upper-level trough becomes persistent over Europe, causing a showery and cool regime. The only risk of dryness and anomalous heat is further south across Spain and Italy. Upstream, Russia will be the target for hot weather and dryness this upcoming summer season. Once we get into the autumn season, the upper trough that produced the showery conditions across Europe during summer will be sinking further south. So southern Europe will end summer and begin fall on a cool and wet note, where northern Europe turns drier and warmer. To project the upper-level features which govern our summer climate across North America, we can look at sea surface temperature anomaly patterns in the Northeast Pacific and also across the North Atlantic. In the Northeast Pacific, warmer than normal temperatures, part of the warm phase Pacific Decadal Oscillation, which has been with us now for almost 3 years, promises the return of the upper-level ridge over western North America, and that means dryness and anomalous heat will be returning for the summer season there. In the North Atlantic, sea surface temperature anomalies are also warmer than normal, and they're forecast to turn even warmer during the summer season. That correlates to an upper-level ridge over eastern North America, which means a hot summer across the eastern portion of the United States and potentially a dry to drought scenario developing in the mid-Atlantic region. In between these two upper-level features, an upper trough will be persistent over the Rocky Mountains and the Great Plains. That means that location will see a showery regime preventing any Great Plains growing area drought concerns for summer 2016. Before we get to the actual summer forecast, let's take a look at May. In May, California looks cool and wet. This is part of the lingering El Niño weather pattern. Upstream, across Texas and the Great Plains, a warmer than normal scenario is likely for the month of May. Across Texas, dryness will be featured with that warmth, so some of the warmth will be excessive. Some excessive heat is likely before the actual summertime begins over the south central plains and into Texas. Further upstream, across the eastern U.S., May looks temperate, occasionally warmer than normal. During summertime, that heat will be rebuilding over the northwestern U.S. with dry conditions there. Further upstream from there, the eastern U.S. looks very dry and warm. Some hot weather is likely, especially midsummer through the mid-Atlantic region down into the southeast states. In between, as I mentioned earlier, an upper trough is likely to deliver showery pattern on occasion, not all the time, but enough to prevent any drought concerns over the Great Plains and the growing areas this year. Once we get to the autumn season, the upper trough pattern, which is over the central U.S., is likely to dissipate. A ridge will develop, but the ridge pattern, which is producing anomalous warmth and dryness, will be too late to produce any drought concerns for the Great Plains. Autumn looks mild and warm across the Great Plains. Across the Northern Hemisphere this summer season, we expect an upper-level trough to bring showers, preventing drought in the Great Plains and also Europe. But that's not the case across Russia. An upper-level ridge pattern promises anomalous heat, dry conditions, and potential drought. Before we take a look at the summer forecast, let's look at May, which will be a hodgepodge of different types of climate. Across the Ukraine and far western Russia, a wet and cool pattern is expected. Wet weather and cool conditions in central Russia are also likely. In between those two zones, dryness and anomalous warmth. Once we get into the summer season, the upper-level ridge pattern will gradually become more organized. Anomalous heat and dryness will become widespread. Wet soils leading into the spring and early summer season will reverse dry, and drought conditions are possible by mid to late summer over west central and central Russia. Moving ahead to the autumn season, it looks like Arctic air will begin to generate over northern portions of Russia and become a cold influence early during the autumn season, with dryness continuing.